What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's time again for another boat project. I gave you a little bit of sneak peek in the last video I did, but we're going to get started on the project today. I've already done a little bit of pre-work for it, and let's just tell you what it is. So, in the Bass Tracker Pro 17, I talked about it before in a previous video, but the rod locker was pretty much a terrible design. Super narrow, and it only held it was designed to hold 3 rods. And if you could fit 3 rods and reels in there, you were doing good, because spinning reels, you could not fit 3 of them in there. There's no way. Even with just my one spinning reel, I couldn't close the lid. It would hold 3 bait casters fine, but getting the actual handle of the bait caster into those little slots was almost impossible. So we're going to redo it. I've got some ideas of how I want to do it. This is going to be probably a multi-day video. I ordered some parts. I don't have all the parts yet, but I wanted to get started today. So some of the pre-work I did, I already purchased the plywood I'm going to use for this, and I already seal coated it to waterproof it. So it's just 1/2 inch plywood, and then I use just an enamel. Oh, what did I use? I just used the Rust-Oleum protective enamel to coat it, to waterproof it. So that part of it's done. Obviously, we're going to have to make some cuts in that. And when we do, then we'll coat the edges again. But I wanted to get the bulk of it done so that I don't have to wait for it to dry for a long time. But the next thing we have to do is pull those rod holders out, and then the old latch is riveted to the side panel there. We'll have to drill those rivets out. But I purchased this piano hinge already, which will work with 1/2 inch plywood. And then I've got stainless screws and a 2-inch hole saw, which I'll be using for this project. So let's go ahead, get those rod holders taken out, and drill the rivets out that are there for the latch. Sorry for the lighting. It's actually pretty bright in here, but down inside the boat, it's pretty dark for the camera. Well, that one wasn't even on there, so. So the old latch they had is just held on by 2 rivets there. I'm just going to go ahead and drill those out quick, and then we'll be able to remove this latch. So you can see how the old rod locker was kind of designed. Just has that narrow opening down there under the front deck, and then it just had a cover that I'll show you guys here in a minute. I already pulled off, but let's go ahead and get this latch off, and we'll go from there. That's pretty much it for removing the old one. My bottom floor of the boat is it's definitely getting soft over there by the driver's seat. So I'm going to plan on replacing that this winter and redoing the front deck and all the carpet. And the entire rear deck in this boat is all aluminum, so I won't have to do anything there. Just remove the carpet and sand down the glue. But let's go ahead. I'm going to grab some pliers, get that out of there, and then we're going to take some measurements and start cutting some pieces for this new locker. So here's what the original rod locker actually looked like. It was just this aluminum cover. It was hinged on the floor, and you'd open it up like this, and then all your rods had to sit here against the outside rail of the boat. Not enough room if you want to carry more than a couple of rods, especially if you're fishing with more than one person, fishing with a buddy or whatever. So that's got to go. And since we're going to be redoing the carpet, I'm going to only staple the carpet on the new one. I'm not going to glue it. So that way when I go to put the marine vinyl flooring in this winter, I can just pull the staples and the carpet will come right off. I don't have to clean any glue or nothing. And then it'll be good to go to put the vinyl right on there. So next step is we just have to take a couple of measurements here. My plan is I'm going to utilize kind of exactly where this was so that the passenger still has adequate leg room. I can't really come out here, and then I still need the aisle to get to the front deck. So I might come just to the outside of where this old one was, but that's about it as far as making it any wider than it already is. But the main board that I need, you can see here, I'm going to cut right at 12 inches. I've got 1/2 inch decking, and then with the carpet, that should get me to the 12 3/4 that front deck is already sitting at. So let's go ahead, measure up our piece that I already have seal coated, and we'll rip a 12 incher off of there. And I didn't buy just normal plywood. I bought, I don't remember if it was birch or what it was, but it's pretty lightweight and it was super straight and super smooth, so it should make it a little bit easier. It also took that oil-based enamel really quick, soaked it in, so I think I put 2 or 3 coats on each side and then probably 5 or 6 coats on the edges. But let's go ahead and mark this piece up and get it cut. If you guys haven't watched my last video, you have to check it out. I did a deep cleaning on this boat, and it didn't require any elbow grease. So go check that out. I'll tag it up above right now. It's incredible, the product that I found. There's several different brands. The actual product itself still blows my mind. Okay, we've got our mark, and I do have a table saw, but it is super windy outside today and drizzling rain, and I don't really want to use it in the shop and get everything all dusty. I still have some deer mounts out here right now, so I'm going to opt for the skill saw to make this cut. Just a shade over the line. So let's go throw it in and see how it looks. That's basically the width that I'm gonna have. It's probably 5 inches wide at the bottom, and then up top here it's probably 13, 14 inches. So I mean, just throwing rods in there, stacking them up, you should be able to fit 10 rods in there. And I use rod socks on all my rods to help them, keep them from getting tangled up. And it also protects all the eyelets. So you can see They all have socks on them. My wife's don't right now, but the only thing you have to worry about then is the reels banging together, which I can throw some rags in there if I'm going to be going on a long trip or something to keep the reels from banging around, but otherwise it's going to be pretty sweet. Still have to cut it off. It's got to be a little bit shorter. That piece was 48 inches. I'm going to make it 40 inches. And with the amount of deck space that I have up front here, I should be able to fit about an 8-foot rod in there. So all those 7-Eleven heavy cranking rods will fit right in there. And I've seen probably 10 or 15 different rod lockers in bass trackers. I've seen several different models that had the same style that mine has. And then I've seen several similar to kind of what I'm building here, and then some that were even completely different than both. So whatever your boat has, if you don't like it, you can definitely do something like this. I think I'm going to have about $40 into it total, so not a super expensive project. All stainless steel hardware, stainless steel piano hinge, so should be pretty simple really. But let's go ahead. Probably going to make that 40-inch cut next, and then we'll work on cutting the end panel there. So that's going to be the basic shape of our box. Now I'm going to use this lid that was in here, and I'm going to take this angle, and I'm going to have to get a little bit bigger piece than this one, but basically I have to translate that angle into one of these pieces. So I'm going to take some measurements, get everything all squared up, and then measure what my flat's going to be, and then measure what the top is going to be, so I know how long each leg of that angle is going to be. So I'm going to do some squaring. We'll be back with you momentarily. Okay, well, I've monkeyed around with this thing for about 10 minutes now, and it appears there's about 5 different ways you could do it. But what I think is going to look the best and look the most factory is squaring this rod locker up with the rest of the boat. So I took the console, I've taken measurements from the console, back in the front and both in the rear. I've squared it up to the floor, and I squared it up to the front deck. So it's not going to be square to this wall, which I already thought that it wouldn't. But the old one used to be kind of square to that wall. So you can see it was sitting at an angle. But to make my walkway to the front of the boat straight, and for me to make all the angles look correct, I think having it square to the rest of the boat rather than square to the hull is the way that I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take some final measurements on this end here, and then we'll get that piece cut out, and we should be ready to do that now. I think I've got it all squared up, so get some measurements there. Remember, measure twice, cut once. So my bottom flat is going to be 6.5. And my top is going to be 11 3/4. So 6.5 and 11 3/4. Let's go mark that board out. So before I made my cuts and marked it all up, I actually climbed in the boat, sat in the passenger seat, you know, checked the leg room, checked the aisleway, made sure everything lined up. I checked it from back here behind, make sure it didn't look retarded, and I ended up moving it just a little bit. So my numbers were, I think, 5 5/8 from the bottom, and then 10 3/4 across the top here, and obviously 12 inches tall. So I've got it all marked up. Let's go ahead and we'll make that cut and set it in there as a test piece and see how it looks. If it doesn't look good, I've got a lot more board right here that I can make some more cuts with. So hopefully it does, but if not, we have plan B. Alright, yes, I did lose some facial hair, but my outro and an important clip to this video that you guys are watching right now got corrupted. So I wanted to make sure I included this detail just in case any of you guys truly are trying to do this same project in one of your bass trackers. But you can see the rod locker is complete now. It looks like it's going to be about a 3-part series. But one of the issue that I ran into, and I didn't notice until after I made that last cut that you just saw for this panel right here, was this side panel is not flush the entire length of the boat. As you can see up there, the deck kind of follows the water line, the natural water line of where the boat would sit in the water. And so it was a 12-inch cut up here on this end, but it was only an 11.5-inch cut for the height on this end. I just wanted to make sure that I got you guys that detail for those of you that are doing a project similar to this, and you can see the finished results. I think we had 11 rods in there this weekend at one time. So stay tuned for the next one. Looks like it's going to be a 3-part series. And thanks guys for stopping by. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next video coming soon.